Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of
I've lost count.
It may be many of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and Nick Buckley, MBE. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast or any of the clips from the podcast, please thumbs up, subscribe, and all the other jazz that comes with it.
And by the time this goes out, we would have hit probably 8,000 subscribers.
I was just about to say that. So bizarrely, Nick, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were celebrating. We had a little glass of water on the fact that you'd reached just 5,000 subscribers.
That was only 2 weeks ago.
Now, since then, you're up to nearly 8,000 subscribers, and a lot of your videos and discussions are getting traction. What's happening? We've discussed this before, but it's happening faster now.
It is. I think several things must be happening. First of all, it's the conversations we're having. You know, we're talking about things that people are interested in, maybe afraid to discuss themselves, and these are complicated topics. So, and we're picking through them, and we're making mistakes as we go along, and we're umming, we're ahhing. Sometimes there's a long break where I'm trying to, because there is no simple answers, and we've not rehearsed little mantras we're going to say. So people are seeing two men who love their country trying to figure out what's going on and solutions. So I think people are relating to it, and because we're releasing more videos and they're beginning to do better, the algorithm in YouTube is now going, these are doing well, push, and I think we're being pushed more into people's streams, and more people are liking them, commenting. We're getting loads of comments now as well. And all of this is just, I think YouTube are pushing us, not because they know us, we're still nobodies in the grand scheme of things, but their computer algorithm wants people to watch videos, so it's pushing us more.
Good.
And if this carries on, it'll push us more, and it'll just grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing, give you credit, Nick, you're doing a lot of work with the videos, putting them out, spending time editing and all that sort of stuff, which is demanding, I know that, but they are interesting, and it's pathetic, I know, but I sometimes sit and watch them. The little one, the 10-minute ones.
I do again because...
Not because I want to look at myself. I am extraordinarily handsome, but I actually find what we're talking about quite... Because I can't remember a lot of it.
No, exactly. And that's why I re-watch him, because A, I watch him to see what we talked about, and B, I want to make sure that I agree with what I'm saying. And when I'm listening to our conversations, sometimes going, do you know what, I didn't word that very well. I need to make sure I word that this way next time. Or... well, that's a good point, but I'd also say this. So when I hear myself back, because these are raw conversations.
They are.
So they're very interesting.
Yeah, and I think we try and keep the pace moving as well. And what I mean by that is we're trying to cover a number of subjects, because there's loads of things at the moment I'm seeing every week. And I'm busy at the moment as well with work, so I'm not having that much time. But even then I find I've got too much stuff. And what I do now is, just for the background, if anybody's interested, if I see something interesting or hear something, I'll ask if my wife has said something, I'll say, can you send that to me? And then I'll send it to you straight away. So you're kind of sick of being bombarded with WhatsApps from me all the time. But then at the end of the week, I'll scroll through, and sometimes I'm staggered by how much there is there, how much has happened, and how much to discuss. And then I'll pick from there things that I think are interesting or whatever, and then we'll talk about them.
We could do a 1-hour show 5 days a week.
Yes, I think that's right.
There's that much going on.
It wouldn't be a problem. No. It wouldn't be a problem. Before we start on this one, again, I'm going to go through things that I've seen. I want to talk about a dinner party I went to. And I think I've told you before, I have very few friends, but every now and then I will be invited to a dinner party. But this was quite an interesting one, because it was a group of people who I met during COVID. Now, my views on COVID are very strong. Yours are less strong, so we tend not to talk about it. Although I have related what's happening at the moment to COVID, and they're trying to get people back in their houses again. There's an invisible enemy, which is the far right, and they're trying to vaccinate people against it.
That will never work again.
Yeah.
Even if a proper virus turns up now, it will not be like it was before.
Well, that's interesting, because these people. Who, so they were normal people, I'll say normal, who basically just realised COVID was wrong, And so we used to have, it was called Third Wednesday. We used to meet every third Wednesday. I think you might have come to one. I think I invited you to one.
No.
You couldn't make it. And they used to get together and just basically whine about COVID, and it was good because you were meeting people who weren't, they weren't wearing masks or whatever. Yeah. It's just similar to this, but maybe not quite as structured.
And that's how you stop violence. You let people talk and get it off the chest. You shut people up. It leads quicker to violence.
Yeah, and so they found a venue where you could meet up, have a drink, have a chat or whatever. It was good. And so then it's kind of disbanded a bit, but we've kept in touch with these people. They invited us around for a meal and a couple of friends there. And the evening was really good because we were talking. And I remember my wife said, "Don't talk about," because she thought I'd be saying things that will get them. And she said, "It'll just be a normal evening. We'll just be talking about, decorate." And I said, "Are you sure?" And of course we weren't. We just went full on into all the issues, and they've moved on, these people, from COVID into what's, the anti-semitism, all that. We went through all the range of subjects. But there was one thing that struck me, and I was going to ask you the question as well. So, in the Matrix, you take a pill, don't you? So you take, I can't remember which one it is. There's a red pill.
A red pill to open your eyes, blue pill to put you back to sleep in the Matrix.
Yeah, a red pill or a blue pill.
But that's based on Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Ah.
So when Alice takes the red pill, I think she shrinks.
Yeah.
And she got back to normal. So to go down the rabbit hole, take the blue pill, she goes. So that's based on that.
And interestingly, they reference the Matrix. Firstly, they reference the Matrix in the context of the fact that the Matrix they believed, or can be interpreted as the world we're living in now, effectively the woke and the unwoke.
Yeah.
The woke people have taken the unwoke people like you and I, and I'm flattering us maybe. Maybe our viewers will say you don't know what unwoke is, but I think we see, or we believe we see the truth. And we think we've taken the red pill because we can see the things happening around us, the manipulation, the government, all that sort of stuff as well. And the blue pill puts you back to sleep. And they give Neo, who's the protagonist, who has woken up and is in the real world, which is the real world is grubby basically, and there's a world where your brain's controlled and everything's beautiful and you have a fantastic life. So they've woken him up and he's come out and it's a horrible world. And they say to him, you can either take the red pill you can take the red pill to wake up or the blue pill to stay where you are, basically. So we were talking about that, and they were saying how that's a parallel to what's happening now. And they said we've all taken the red pill, the people at this meal. But then one of the guys said, before all this, I had lots of friends around here. This was in a posh area of Manchester. He said lots of friends, consultants, judges, lawyers, all these people. I had a fantastic social life. We had dinner parties all the time. I used to get on my bike and go about mountain biking with all these characters. And he said, they've all gone. They don't talk, they don't invite me around anymore. And he said, and I almost had a tear in my eye. He said, sometimes I wish I could take the blue pill and go back to where I was before. And I was just thinking, it's a really interesting point, isn't it? I mean, it's less interesting for me because I've never had many friends. Not because I can't make friends. It's just I'm not that interested in having friends. But he was a very social person. Had all that thing. Is that something sometimes you wish? Do you sometimes wish? Maybe I wish I wasn't here. Maybe I wish I'd stayed doing something. Maybe I wish I hadn't got involved in the charity. Maybe I'd have gone in a different way in my life if I hadn't decided to wake up.
I can relate to that. I don't regret it. So my red pill moment was researching Black Lives Matter in 2020. So beginning of 2020, I'd just been awarded an MBE of our late Queen. I was on very good money with the charity I founded. I was advising prime ministers. Every other week I was at some charity ball somewhere, being wined and dined. I was advising councils across the country. I was running my own charity. I was seen as an upstanding member of Manchester. I was always being invited to free stuff in these events and these openings, and I could turn loads down because I didn't have enough time. And then I write an article about Black Lives Matter on my blog. And then roll on 4 years. I'm now self-employed, scraping by, making a living. I don't have the same money or the same lifestyle I had 4 years ago. Would I take the blue pill? No, absolutely not. I knew before I was different. even before I was red pilled in 2020, I saw stuff, and I would always have controversial conversations with left-wing people across the table at a charity ball. But I always knew not to push it too far. But yeah, I mean, so my life, one article changed my life completely.
And that was the red pill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
going back to the Matrix, the two brothers who wrote the Matrix series.
Yeah. Go on.
They're
Our
both,
readers, our listeners may not know.
They're both trans.
Yes. Now. Yeah. What a fantastic coincidence that they're both trans.
Both trans.
Yeah.
But wrote something so exceptional.
Yeah.
And so thought-provoking, and now they're both trans.
Yeah.
So it looks like they then took the blue pill.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think just because somebody's slightly insane and they want to dress up as a woman doesn't mean they can't have a creative and talented side to them as well. There are lots of...
Most mental people are creative.
Yeah.
To be creative, you've got to think differently. You've got to be slightly...
Yeah, the Matrix... I won't stop watching The Matrix just because they both become trannies.
The first film's one of the best films ever.
That's a phenomenal film. And the creativity, intelligence behind that film.
Did you watch number 4?
Is that the one that just came out recently? I started and I gave up.
I tried watching it twice.
Yeah.
First time I got 20 minutes in or 40 minutes in. Next time I got nearly an hour and went, what am I watching?
Yeah, I know. They did decline. And I think their mental state now, which is obviously manifesting and wandering around with the big wig on and all that sort of stuff, is kind of is reflected in their films now. They're not very good, I think.
The first one was excellent.
So I'll move on now to the stuff that I saw during the week, and this Jeremy Clarkson, who I like. I don't know what your views on Jeremy. We've never talked about Jeremy Clarkson, so
I'm not a fan. I don't hate him, but I'm not a fan.
I think he's phenomenal. I think he's just so... he's a very clever guy. He clearly doesn't speak openly all the time about the way he thinks. You can tell what he's thinking sometimes when you see his reaction.
Yeah.
He's against authority, he's a libertarian, basically. But he is somebody who's taken the red pill. And he wrote an article, which I don't think was a recent article, but it's very, very germane to where we are now in society. He said, when I lived in Notting Hill, I was a Remainer, and so were all my friends. It literally didn't occur, this is interesting, it literally didn't occur to us, as we sat down there in our agreeable houses eating agreeable food, that someone might vote to leave. And then, I think this is a reality of people like Keir Starmer. They're sitting in a place where nobody they sit round with or deal with has an idea that somebody might think differently to them. I think the same thing is happening again. Today I'm surrounded, because he's bought, I don't know if you know, but he's bought a big farm. He lives now in the country. And today I'm surrounded by farmers, plasterers, brickies and butchers, and all I hear all day long is there's too much immigration. Right? These are the far-right thugs that Starmer's talking about. But if they say this out loud, and if they go on a march, they are told by the London elite that they are far-right extremists or racist thugs. For the most part, they're not. They're just people who know they have to shut up when the last post is played and their cheese rolling down a hill is funny, which is an English thing. There's a time when you'd have called them the salt of the earth. But Sir Starmer doesn't seem to have grasped this. He's surrounded by people who see nothing wrong with immigration, and he's got it into his head, as I did with Brexit, that anyone who disagrees with him must be some kind of Trump nut. The fact is, though, that 4 million people voted for reform more than voted for Brexit, and he's pissing them off by labelling them as modern-day Hitlers. I therefore suggest that both he and his friends at the BBC calm down the rhetoric, or we could be heading for some real trouble.
Yep, I agree. Unfortunately, they will not calm down the rhetoric. They're not for turning. The BBC's not for turning. Keir Starmer, Labour Party, are not for turning. They've rolled the dice. This is the game they're playing. They're playing it far too long. And they've been playing it that long that this is normal. This is the norm. For them to change, they would have to basically say, personally, I've been wrong for 30, 40 years. We're not designed to do things like that. We're designed for the status quo. We're designed just to plod along and carry on. Every now and again, we will throw up someone amazing who can do that change, but they're one in a generation. So we will just they'll plod along doing what they're doing. And the more people around them who are just like them, like at the BBC, It's self-validation.
But you said in a previous, because this actually kind of opened my eyes a bit, I think, because that sentence where he said, it literally didn't occur to us that someone might vote to leave. You said in a previous episode, the last one to this, that Starmer knows what's going on, he's not stupid, but he's just choosing for political reasons not to address it. Do you think possibly he actually doesn't realise what's going on? Do you think he actually does think that people should be thinking the way he is, how Clarkson thought when he lived in London? That they've been living in that environment for so long, talking to the same people for so long, as you and I used to do, that they've started to believe that actually there isn't a problem with immigration, that the people aren't unhappy except for a few right-wing thugs. Could it be possible they are actually totally brainwashed into not understanding what the hell is going on?
Yes and no. So does Keir Starmer know that there's so many million people unhappy with mass migration? Of course he does. He sees the polls. He's got dozens of people looking at polls to win the election. He's just won. He knows that. His strategy is to win the election, not to win over the British public. It's to win the election, and he's done it. He obviously, and all the elites do, and the Tory party do, they're all for mass immigration. So they don't care to a certain extent what people want or care about. They've got two things they're worried about: winning elections. So it doesn't matter as long as I win the election. And the second thing is, it's that feeling of the elite that we know best. So Keir Starmer and people like that are thinking, my life's amazing, and I'm pro-EU and pro-mass immigration because look at all the benefits it's brought me. If you could only embrace this, if you could embrace mass immigration, embrace the EU, you'd be more like me, and my life's amazing. So they're doing it because I would imagine most would do it because they think it's the right thing to do. That the stupid, uneducated, non-university graduates living up north on council estates, no wonder your life is crap, but it's not your fault you were born there. But if you could embrace our policies and the way we're thinking, you'd be more like me.
Yeah.
And my life's better than your life.
You'll become right. Yeah.
And it's that thinking. It's not so much they've got their head in the clouds. It's they really do. But these are socialists, and socialists always think like this. So they do believe that they're trying to give the people a better life, but they want to give them a life that they've got. I want people to have a better life, but I want people to have a better life that they want.
Yes.
Not that I want to give them.
Yeah.
I want to give.
Not that you don't want to impose a life on them.
I want to give people the opportunities, the self-confidence, the skills for them to make their life better in any which way they want to. Other people say, this is a better life for you. We're going to force this upon you because we know best. There's two ways and their way never works.
After reading that, I started to believe that yes, they are. His advisors are showing him the polls, but I think he's almost seeing them almost in a dream world. Because I think in his mind, as you just said then, there's only one right way to think and be, and that's the way I am. And something's happened. I don't know what we've done wrong, but all those people in the north, they've gone further over to this way of thinking, and there's something wrong with them. But you're right. We'll fix them. We'll fix them.
That's it.
Yeah.
He sees those polls, and he doesn't go, "Oh, we're in trouble. We're not doing." He looks at those polls and goes, "There's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to make sure we need to convince them that we're right and let them vote for us.
We need to fix them.
Fix them.
We need to fix them because there is actually only one way to think,
and it's our way.
And that way we think is that nobody should vote leave. Nobody should be anti-immigration. Nobody, and that's the right way to think. Yeah. And I think he's just looking at them and he's not thinking, I need to understand what the problem is here. I don't think that's why he didn't say it in that thing because he doesn't think there's a problem. Because he's not actually looking at it. He's not seeing the people in Southport rioting. He's not seeing the people voting for reform. He's just thinking, there's something wrong with their thinking, but I will be able to fix it
Yes.
during the course of my prime ministership.
Yeah, he's thinking, if I can fix public services, if I can fix this, if I can lower taxes or create more jobs, they're going to see what a real socialist government does, and they're gonna go, right, you were right.
Yeah.
We should rejoin the EU.
Yeah.
You're right. Mass immigration is great because we're all getting richer, and that's what he's banking on. But we know that's not going to work.
In tandem with this, when I was reading it, I was looking at a website called Migration Watch. Have you heard of that? Migration Watch.
I think so.
It publishes stats. I think somebody was on GB News, and he was talking about. So I went on the website and looked at it, and this is something you and I, just for the viewers, you can find this on Migration Watch's website, and it's the green lines. Sorry, I know we don't kind of do it. The green lines represent white British people in the UK since 2001 to 2021. Right. So it's relatively, it's a couple of years out of date, and I suspect the situation's got far more. But if you look at London, and you've told me this before, but it's staggering to see it on this bar chart here. The green in London, which represents white British people, is 37%.
Yep.
So that means 63% of the people in London are not white British. Some of them are white, some more of them are white, which is the green bit there, but something like 50% is Asian, black, mixed or whatever. The others are kind of Irish or Romanians or whatever it might be. But 37%.
And it's the same in Birmingham and Manchester. They're the three places now, three cities in the world, it's 3 cities in this country that white British is a minority.
Yeah, it's got East Midlands at 72, but maybe this is because this is the whole of the East Midlands or whatever. So this isn't going down to individual towns. Yeah. So what did you say the other 2 areas are?
Birmingham and Manchester.
Are less than 50% white British. It's quite staggering that. You now understand why Lawrence Fox and Calvin, I've forgotten his surname now, Calvin Robinson, have moved out of London, and they say they hate going back there, basically, because it's not. Sorry, I didn't give the comparative. In 2001, it was 60% white British. So it's gone from 60% white British,
halved in 2 decades.
In 2 decades. That is I was in London. I was in London in early 1980s. Probably it was like 80% white then, British white. Now it's 37%. That is massive demographic change, isn't it?
This is what, when people say, my country doesn't look the same anymore now, my country's changing, I'm losing my country. When people say, I want my country back, it's because of those stats.
Yeah. And London's where the most people live as well. So how many white British people in London are affected by this?
12, 15 million in London, something like that.
So you can and a lot of these characters talking on the television live in London. The ones who are saying this has got to stop. Yeah. And you can understand why. Yeah.
The flip side of that, Keir Starmer would say, London is the financial centre of the UK. If it wasn't for London, we'd be a third world country. Yeah. And London does so well. Why? Because of diversity is our strength.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing this for our listeners as well is if you do look at the dark green, the majority of the country is still dark green.
Yes.
So I think I kind of take heart there that, at the moment, this is not totally out of control.
It's the big cities.
Yeah, it's the big cities where we've got the issues.
The problem is.
Yeah, but if it does become a war, we talked about the fact this could become a war, and this is where we may get arrested, Nick, for inciting violence. If, as people allegedly say, this is now a war between the British people and the government, the British people are by far in the majority across this country.
Oh, of course they do. Of course. Yeah. And that's why they're terrified. Because they know, there's 70 million people in this country. And, it looks at the moment 40, 50 million of them are not happy. Yeah. And they're blaming the government, and you can't control. And even if it's only a couple of million people, you can't control a couple of million people.
No, you're right. You're right.
You really can't. When Eastern Europe fell, every one of those countries fell overnight without a shot being fired. And a day or two before, not one of those governments saw it coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how quick things can fall. Because once the public realise we've got the power, we're not having this anymore, is the second the elite realise, do you know what, we're really not in control here, are we?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
So guys out there, if you are watching, I know we have a lot more viewers now. You know, we are in control still. We have, you know, there's a lot more. Although I'm not even white British, so I don't know why I'm saying it. But there's a lot more white British, but native British people out there than there is of everybody else. So
and the other people are not the issue. The government's the issue. It isn't the Bangladeshis who's come here. It's not the Nigerians. It's not this.
Yeah.
It's not that. Because it's not like they're just one tribe. They hate each other just as much as they hate other people.
Yeah.
They will all splinter and fight each other, as we see all the time. They're not the problem. Allowing immigrants to come here and settle, they're not the problem. It's the government who allow them to come here.
Correct.
They're the problem.
Yeah.
There was a stat come out last day or two, over I can't remember how many years now, the last 2-3 years it was. More new jobs in the UK have been given to Indians and Nigerians than people born here.
Oh really? What, since when, or what period?
Last couple of years,
Yeah.
over the last 2 years, all the new jobs in the last 2 years, more have been given to people from Nigeria, or have been given more to people from India.
All right. Okay.
So we're creating jobs here, but we're importing
to-
more people
to
to
take
do
them.
those jobs.
Yeah.
And we're leaving between 7 and 10 million people on benefits, work-related benefits in this country. Because we don't want to tackle lazy Brits or disabled Brits or mental health Brits or long COVID Brits. You all stay there on benefits, and for an easy life we'll just import more people to do the jobs that we're creating. It's the wrong way round.
Yeah. Let's just get those 7 to 10 million people working.
Back into work.
Back into work. Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Now we're talking about two-tier Kia and two-tier policing and things like that. There was a clip on, and there's two things I want to talk about here, which is first of all the clip itself and what is visible in the environment of the clip, and then we talk about what happened afterwards. So there was one of these organised riots or counter protests.
Yeah.
With all the professionally printed prints and all happening in London,
With all the white liberal women.
with white liberal women, and then actually this is what's kind of interesting here. So whilst this is happening, there are two white women, middle-aged women,
Yeah.
standing next to this character.
Yeah.
One is wearing an Amnesty International white vest.
So this is Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor.
Ricky Jones,
Yeah.
Labour councillor. At the time when this was published, this first article
Yeah.
talking about it, we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And another woman is wearing. So what is bizarre about these counter protests? They are surrounded by people in high vis vests. Have you seen this?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. So it's kind of, those have obviously been handed out by the Stand Up to Racism people or whatever. The social.
They, to have demonstrations and get permission off the police and do it all legal, you have to have so many stewards. So these organisations have people who come all the time, and you can be a steward. Stay on the outside, wear your high-vis, and that's what most protests do. They have people with high-vis jackets on, they're called stewards. So some of them will be stewards.
And these stewards are all quite sinister, because I've seen videos where they move towards people.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
If there's somebody filming it,
They're the true believers.
yeah, all these guys in high vis head towards and the guys are saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I just said, "Oh, I'm just wondering what are you doing?" It's just, "I'm filming." And why are you following me? Oh, I'm just walking. You know, and it's like the kind of sinister kind of Gestapo with the bizarre little high vis. Anyway, so there's this one with the Amnesty, and there's a woman with a high vis vest who's part of the organisation.
Yeah.
They hand the microphone to this guy. I don't know if is he Indian? I'm not sure what he is.
Not mixed race, Caribbean, mixed race Caribbean
type guy. And he starts talking about the right-wing thugs or things like that. And then he actually says during it, he called for them to have their throats cut. We should cut their throats, I think he said.
Slit their throats.
Slit their throats, that's it, yes. So this
And did that. We should slit their throats.
Yeah. So this is incitement to violence and to
murder,
yeah, basically. which any of our far right thugs would be immediately bundled to the ground, hit with a large truncheon, and then banged up for 20 years. What was quite sinister before this then escalated, which we'll talk about in a minute. So nobody knew who this character was at the time, but they said this, and it was like, what the frick? The two women were applauding this, started to applaud.
The whole crowd was applauding.
Yeah. But the two women in particular, two white middle-class women wearing the high-vis jackets, one with Amnesty International, applauded this, cheered this. Yeah. And that is what really shocked me initially. Because I'm pretty sure if I'd have been there and he'd said that, I would have kind of said, no, too much. Yeah, that's not appropriate, or whatever. But they didn't just kind of say nothing or not smile. They actually smiled and clapped.
The woman with Amnesty International coat on, how hypocritical is that?
Yes.
So Amnesty International, a charity organised to embarrass countries for the death penalty and treating people poorly. But if you want to slit the throats of white working class people in the UK...
Yeah, round of applause.
Well done. Just make sure you don't kill any brown or black people, or gay people.
Yeah.
And then the other woman clapping, I've read somewhere, this may or may not be true, she was one of the protesters for one of the reform demonstrations.
Ah, really?
So I believe she's slathered online.
They are so intertwined and mixed up and right in the heart of this. These grubby
but
people,
the councillor's saying that, and everybody missed this bit, but I didn't miss it. So we need to slit all their throats. And anyway, thank you for letting me speak, and God bless everybody. He said, God bless everybody, as he walked off. It's like, how stupid. We're good, slit everyone's throats, God bless you all.
I know.
But again, it's a little bit like abortion.
Yeah.
As in, we're the good people, just kill millions of babies, but we're the good people. Yeah.
But don't you think that before we move on to the character himself and what happened, don't you think that this is very, very, and I know it's a cheap shot all the time, this is very reminiscent to Nazi Germany and the Jews, isn't it? Where you get a crowd of people together, you create an enemy, which now is the far right thugs, and those enemies become inhuman. They're inhuman. Their lives don't matter. They don't matter, and normal people start to applaud torturing, killing, and destroying these people. And that's what that was to me. Yeah. Because I thought that was quite chilling.
It was. I don't think I've heard anything like that from the UK. I've definitely not heard a politician ever say anything like that, but I've not seen anything like that online ever. See, this is called the madness of crowds. So when people are in crowds, we act differently. And the more the people cheer, the more you say something and you push the boundary a little bit and they all cheer and smile, automatically, it's all subconscious, you go,
there's a feedback.
They like feedback loop. They like that. So you keep pushing and you're pushing and they keep cheering and clapping and you get caught up in the moment. I'm sure he got caught up in the moment. Very silly man, needs punishing. I don't believe for one moment he meant what he said, but he got caught up in the moment because of the madness of crowds and that feedback loop. But if that had been anybody else,
if that had been a white guy in a white in one of the white Enough is Enough marches, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's an immediate uproar about this, as there should be. Nigel Farage said the man should be. Other people said he should be arrested, quite rightly, for this. You know, this is. And Nigel Farage said this man should be arrested. If not, we know there is two-tier policing. It then transpired he was called Ricky Jones, and he was a Labour councillor. Yeah. He was identified very, very quickly at that point. So he actually was then arrested. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, got arrested.
He was then arrested.
Suspended from the Labour Party.
Suspended from the Labour Party. Do you know what happened next?
I would imagine he's been bailed straight away, and I would imagine he'll have a court case in 6 months' time.
Well, the answer is I don't know if he has been bailed. He may have been bailed. Probably.
I'm just presuming.
Yeah. I think what's more, again, sinister, and you start to think there's something wrong here and there's something very, very strange. He is going to be tried, but the judge who's trying him is called Judge Tan Ikram. Ikram, I don't know whether he's Muslim, he looks Asian of some sort, whether he's Indian or what. But Tan Ikram famously presided over the case of the girls who were sporting paraglider images on one of the pro-Palestine marches, basically. Yeah. The paragliders, for our listeners who may not know, were used to murder the 3,000 Jews on October the 11th, basically. They flew in on paragliders and guns, shooting people, basically, including over that festival. I can't remember where it was now.
They use paragliders because the Israeli air defence won't pick up a paraglider.
Well, yeah, because of the size, presumably,
tiny.
Or whatever. Oh. So he presided over the paraglider and he let them off.
Yeah, slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
And then it got discovered he'd been liking Free Palestine tweets and stuff.
He is now going to try this guy.
Oh, we know for a fact this Ricky Jones won't be punished the way anybody else will be punished. But he had to be arrested.
Yes.
To stop a civil war, basically.
Yeah.
There would have been riots if he hadn't. He'll get a slip on the wrist.
Yeah, but when you see that, though, don't you think somebody somewhere within the system is making decisions like that? Somebody somewhere has said, yes, arrest him, because otherwise there'll be a civil war, because if this guy doesn't get arrested, arrest him, but make sure he's tried by Tan Ikram, who we know is on our side and will let him off. Somebody somewhere has made that decision. It can't be a coincidence.
Or it could be a coincidence because lots of judges, I would say most judges, are woke fools. Look how many have let off the Extinction Rebellion protesters, smashing Barclays windows, and they get, you're trying to save the world, you can go, slap on the wrist. So many judges are weak like that. So he just might have got appointed, he may have been appointed to his court, or it might have been a setup, but it isn't like he's the only judge in the country that's woke and liberal and left-leaning.
No, but he's highly visible for that particular case, which was about pro-Palestine anti-Semitism.
In which case, if he's that well-known, you think they'd say, well, let's not give him in. Let's
give it to another woke judge.
Let's give it to the woke judge that no one's ever heard of.
So I think we should keep an eye on that case and see what happens.
Yes.
Because he should be banged up. On the basis of banging up 15-year-old kids, white kids, let's see what happens to this guy.
He was inciting a large crowd to murder people.
Yeah. I don't know what the legal, you know more about the law than I do, I don't know what the legal ramifications of that would be for somebody like that.
My understanding is incitement to violence carries the same penalty as committing that violence. So inciting murder carries the same sentence as actually murdering.
Yeah.
Up to that.
So it should be years.
If he's proven guilty and they'll take in, I mean, I'll be amazed if he does a day in jail. But technically, he could get life.
But they're arresting people for tweeting now.
I know.
So this guy, we've got visible evidence of inciting crowds on the street in the middle of crowds. You think he's going to get away with it?
Yeah.
And people now.
Why is he not in court 2 days later?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a really good point.
Because this demonstration was about the riots.
Yeah.
So why is this not being? Why is he not rushed straight through a court straight away?
Yeah.
It's because they want to delay it and delay and delay it. Most people forget about it. Anger will diminish, and then they can get him in court. Slap on. I mean, he'll be found guilty. It has to be found guilty. But it's the punishment. What will the punishment be? He's a counsellor. He works well in his community. He got caught up heat at the moment. He didn't mean what he said. He's apologised now. Do you know what? 18 months in jail, suspended for 2 years. So he'll walk out free.
But yet, you're right. Within 2 days of trying some of these guys who've been at the demonstrations for not particularly serious things.
No, and letting out proper criminals to free up the spaces. So let these 1,000 criminals leave jail early, so we can get these tweeters in, and it's mental. If you'd have told me this last year, that we're going to be letting criminals out of jail so we can get people who've commented online in jail, I'd have said, you've just gone too far now, Lindsay. You're going too far with this.
But once again, the parallels to COVID. We were arresting people, imprisoning people for not adhering to COVID, these imaginary rules, this imaginary disease. It's not an imaginary disease, viewers, but a disease that didn't have anything like the danger that they protested. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The parallels to COVID for me are enormous. You get in prison for doing trivial things. Other people don't get in prison for doing like the Partygate thing or whatever. It's just, it's constant.
It's because COVID and now with the Keir Starmer government, they have thrown everything behind it. So same with COVID. So Boris Johnson couldn't admit, turns out we made a mistake. They had to double down because he knew, just like Starmer knows, if we admit our mistake here and try to change, it's the end of my government. It's the end of my career. And I'm not willing to have my career ended. I would rather double down, bankrupt the country, jail people, attack white working class, then admit I was wrong and lose my premiership.
Yeah. It's disgusting. And of course, your friend of mine, Sadiq Khan, has crawled out from his rock to make a statement. And his statement was, which again infuriated me, "Now's the time to please check in on your black, brown and minority friends, families, neighbours and colleagues. In many parts of the country, they don't feel safe." And this is what this guy said, which is exactly what I thought. "Mr. Mayor, I don't remember you comforting the Jewish community when From the River to the Sea was projected onto the side of Big Ben." So we think of the way that the Jewish community, and I know this subject is divisive for our viewers, but my feelings on this are very strong, and I think yours are as well. The way that our Jewish community has been tormented, abused, vilified and attacked since October the 11th in this country has been disgusting in my view. And yet Sadiq Khan didn't say a bean about that, and we're one of the biggest Jewish communities are in London, by all means. So the hypocrisy here is staggering, isn't it?
Expected, because he has completely bought into identity politics and bought into the oppressor and the oppressed narrative, and Jews now are seen as white people, therefore they can't be oppressed, they're always the oppressor. And he's bought into that. And his statement to people in London, if he'd have just missed out the beginning of it, it would have been a nice statement. If he'd have said, "Now is the time to check up on your neighbours and friends because of the violence across the country and make sure they're okay," would have been a lovely thing for the mayor to have said. Check up on your neighbours and friends. But to break it down into race and ethnicity and that is disgusting.
Yes.
He's just adding flames to the fire. And what he's doing there is quite clever. He's reminding everybody, his voter base, which is the ethnic minorities, he's reminding them, I'm here to protect you.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for me protecting you, we'd be like other parts of the country with race riots. And they hate you. They hate you. They hate black people. They hate Asian people. They hate Muslims. I'm the only person between them and you. And that's a nice subtle reminder.
Yeah. And why not? Because only 37% of the population in London is white British.
Yeah, and a big chunk of them will be white liberals who vote for him as well.
I mean, it is obscene, isn't it? He doesn't even say, if he said white, black, brown, Jewish and minority friends, yes. But the insult as well, not just to Jewish people, but to white people in London, who will be scared as well, won't they?
Yes.
You know, they're seeing riots on the streets, they don't know what's happening, they're hearing about all the violence.
Yes.
They heard about 3 little girls getting killed in Southport. What about them? What about little old white ladies sitting in their flats? And I've seen lots of those in London. What about them?
He doesn't care about them. Just like Keir Starmer, he doesn't care about people who don't vote for him. This is all about his voter base.
I think that's just... I think you're right. I think that's just absolutely disgusting.
He could have changed many people's opinions on himself by saying it's time to knock on your neighbours and friends' doors and make sure everybody's okay. That would have been a nice message to send, because people were afraid of all colours and religions and creeds. Everybody was afraid because it sounded like revolution was coming. 100 riots tonight, but no, he just sends that signal to black and brown and ethnic minorities.
And for me, the obscene distortion as well, and the obscene flipping from as being concerned and horrified by the murder of 3 English girls, white English girls in
2 white English girls, 1 Portuguese girl.
But I think she was. I think she's born in England, wasn't she? I think she's English.
I think I bet you. And anyway,
yeah. Three little
girls.
Yeah. The obscene flipping of the narrative from that.
Yep.
To go and
ethnic
look at
minorities are now in danger.
Can people not see this, Nick? They must see it, for God's sake.
We've been doing this for so long, many people can't see it. So many people only care and have been taught to care about their community or their identity. So when 3 little white girls are stabbed to death in Southport, well, the Asian and black community on the whole don't care. It's not my community.
Yeah.
When something happens to another community, everybody else goes, well, what do I care? It's not my community. And this is the breaking down of society, which will lead to tribal warfare, because that's what these are, tribes now. Where how it should be was, 3 Asian girls. I mean, it's like the Asian girl who was murdered by her brother in Rochdale, punched in the head and killed. The Muslims didn't even come out and protest her. He got off scot-free. That he didn't mean.
When did that happen?
It was in the Communist Court about a month ago.
Right.
23-year-old brother punches 7-year-old girl in the head because she wasn't doing as she's told, killed her with 1 punch. Family wouldn't speak to the police and work with the investigation. His girlfriend wouldn't speak to the police. The community all shut their doors, and so there was nothing they could charge him with. It was an accident. So that's within their community. They didn't even protest and riot about that, and that was one of their own. It's scary times that we're not seeing each other as the same. If 3 little Asian girls were murdered in Birmingham, I would feel just as upset that they got murdered than those 3 white girls in Southport.
Yeah.
It's because they're children, they're our children, we all live in this country.
But if the people were rioting on the streets in Birmingham as a result of that, the Asian community, there wouldn't be any kind of, we'll clamp down on this far right.
We understand your concerns.
Yeah, there'd be a meeting with the community leaders, whoever free they are, again.
Yeah. Some of them are organised drug dealers who are the local community. Not always imams. Some of them are proper gangsters who are community leaders.
Yeah, and they just wheel them out.
Yeah.
When Starmer met these people, did he have any idea who he's talking to? He probably doesn't, does he?
These are photo opportunities.
Yeah.
He's wheeled in, wheeled out. It was like the time when it was Remembrance Sunday, Poppy Day, and he had a poppy on when he was speaking to the white crowd. 2 hours later, in front of a Muslim audience, no poppy on.
I want to move on to this. The previous thing about Sadiq Khan, I think I said, what about the Jews? And I want to carry on that theme, what about the Jews? Because this is something that happened on last Sunday. And Reginald Hunter in Edinburgh Festival. Reginald D. Hunter, he's a black comedian.
Yeah.
American, who's been around for years actually. And before I swallowed the red pill, I used to watch him on Have I Got News for You or whatever and think he was funny. And really looking back, I feel like banging my head against the wall that I ever actually watched these bloody programmes. But the commentator said this Sunday night's performance by Reginald E. Hunter ranks without doubt as the most unpleasant comedy gig I've ever attended. And what happened is he made a joke where he talks about an abusive wife accusing her husband of abuse. And he said, my God, it's like being married to Israel. Of course, the analogy there being that Israelis complaining about the Palestinians when they're abused. That very crude and not particularly funny. There was audience laughter in response, but not from the couple in the front row who shouted out not funny. And I would shout out not funny as well, because it isn't funny particularly. They then said they were from Israel and then endured for a long period of time people telling them to fuck off, calling them genocidal maniacs, saying you're not welcome, and free Palestine. This is people shouting from the crowd at this. But Reginald D. Hunter didn't try to stop them. He joined in. He joined in to the point where this couple had to actually leave the building. Now, did you ever believe, even 10 years ago, Nick, that could happen in this country. If that happened 10 years ago, you read about that in the papers, wouldn't that be a massive issue all over the headlines? People
would have done,
furious.
because at that point then Jews were included in the Victim Olympics. Jews are no longer in the Victim Olympics. We discussed exactly the same thing several months ago. It was a different comedian, and it was in London, and Israelis then got screamed at and shouted and driven out of the Comedy Store. So this is the second time this has happened.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. It is horrendous that the comedian would join in. I can understand him doing a joke about Israel.
Yeah.
And you might not find it funny. It doesn't mean the joke's not funny. It just means you don't find it funny.
And I retain I reserve the right to find that not funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the jokes are very individual. Some people find it funny, some people won't. So
But if I express my belief that that's not funny, I would then not expect to be heckled, abused, and driven from the stadium.
No, absolutely no. I never thought we'd be in this position. I never thought we'd have Jews being driven out of comedy shows. I didn't think we'd have white racism in this country on display. And there's loads of examples of white racism, which I think you've got one towards the end, you've got coming up there, which is no surprise. And let's go back to what you said before. This is like Nazi Germany, where public crowds would harangue and beat up Jews because they could. And that's what's happening now. There's certain people in our community now, certain groups, white people, Jews, who not only is it okay to abuse them, not only is it okay probably to physically attack them, but everybody will cheer you doing it. And this is what happened in Nazi Germany. This is what's happened in other countries with other minorities. And I never thought we would be doing this in this country. But again, part of this is this is part of mass immigration. We've imported people into this country with different cultures, different values. Some of those values are rubbed off on white British people. But we never used to be like this. Throughout our history, I don't think we've really ever been like this. There was a time where we would burn Catholics, but that wasn't because they were Catholic. That was because they were traitorous to the crown. It'd be proven they were traitorous, and then we'd burn them anyway. But that was 500 years ago, 400 years ago. And it's scary. I don't know where this is going to end.
I don't know where it's going to end.
It's going to end with a mob who crossed the line and beat someone to death.
Yeah, or crucify a Jewish person or something, or set fire to a Jewish person or something stupid. I mean, it's kind of, I think the really chilling thing about it, this is the Edinburgh Festival. The Edinburgh Festival is populated by middle class, supposedly progressive, libertarian people who go to see alternative comedy. And they're sitting in a comedy show and they allow that to happen.
A world-renowned comedy show, the Edinburgh Festival.
A very famous comedian. And they can't see what they can't see what they're doing, Nick, can they? They can't see that they are attacking, they are heckling, haranguing, abusing a Jewish couple for being Jewish.
No, they're haranguing a Jewish couple for being Israelis.
No, I don't think they are.
They are.
No, I think they're doing it because they're Jewish.
They're doing it because they're Israelis. First of all, we don't know they're Jewish. A quarter of all Israelis are Muslim.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets tricky with the Israel thing.
They had little black caps on and the ringlets down the side.
Right, in which case they were...
No, I don't know they did.
Right.
That's it. I'm speculating.
Well, this is how complicated the Jewish thing is. Because you've got Israel, you've got citizens of Israel, not all of them are Jews. Then you've got Jewish people as a heritage. Then you've got the Jewish religion. And all these things are mixed up, and all of us fall foul of conflating them. But regardless of all that, let's say they were Belgium, and he told a Belgian joke about crap chocolate, And they went, "That's not funny. Our chocolate's the best in the world." That's my Belgian accent.
I didn't realise you could do it. That was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Any Belgian viewers, please let us know how that
I've been watching Bravo. And let's say they complain about his chocolate joke, and then the crowd turned on him, and he was turning on them. I compare that to that, and then we drive him out of the theatre because of that. That's what I don't like, is that turning on people.
Yeah.
And it may be because they're Jewish. Let's be honest. It could be because of the fact they're Jewish.
Of course it is.
But we don't know that. So let's not say that's it's the fact. British people used to be so much politer.
Yes.
And used to
Tolerant.
want decency and tolerance.
Correct.
And it wouldn't. Do you know what? We don't like Belgian people, but do you know what? We wouldn't shout at them.
Yeah.
That's rude, and we're not a rude people.
Yeah.
But we're turning into animals.
Yeah. We don't want to go into too much detail because we haven't got the time, but I think it is anti-Semitism in my view. The whole pro-Palestine thing is anti-Semitism. You and I have talked before about all the horrific atrocities that are happening to Muslims around the world.
Part of it is anti-Semitism, not all of it.
And the reason the focus here is because people have found it a great reason to bring anti-Semitism back to the country. And it began, I think you said, didn't it? Was it like 5 years ago when those guys drove down? No, somebody else said it. Somebody else I was talking to. That incident in London.
In London with the flag saying we're going to rape your daughter.
We're going to rape, and nothing happened. Remember?
Slap on the wrist.
They got away with it.
Slap on the wrist.
That's when the door was opened, and the government said, "Bring in the anti-Semites.
Yeah.
Now's the time. It's a free for all, guys." That was the beginning of it, and it's what happened on October 11th. Just open the floodgates a little bit more, basically, for anti-Semites.
Yeah, there's definitely anti-Semitism involved here as well, but there's also the fact that they dislike Israel, because Israel has embarrassed the whole Middle East, the whole Muslim world. This strip of land that was worthless is now a first world country, and everyone around it is still living in the third world shithole, unless they've got loads of oil, in which case it's an authoritarian, rich crap hole.
Yeah.
And then you also have to look at the communists. How do we bring down the West? Right, we've got Israel, technically the West, in the Middle East, connected, linked with America. If we can destroy Israel, that damages America. That's one step forward to bringing down the West and socialist utopia. So there's lots of things going on, but part of that definitely is anti-Semites.
So we've talked about anti-Jewish, we talked about anti-Jewish there. I want to talk about another form of racism now, which is anti-white. And this is something that is unequivocal now.
Yep.
It is definitely happening. It's clearly identified here, but the fact it's been identified so clearly here suggests it must be happening everywhere else in this bloody country, especially in the public sector. So we actually found out here in Thames Valley Police that 3 talented white police officers, and if you think about this story, you can flip it round to say 20 or 30 years ago, 3 talented black police officers were overlooked for a white person to be promoted. It's all gone the other way around now.
I'm not sure that ever happened. Definitely not 20, 30 years ago. It may have happened in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. I bet there was a headline like that 20, 30 years ago, though.
Oh, yeah.
There will have been,
Yeah. Headlines like all the time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think you and I have talked. I remember the 80s and the 90s as a brown man in London and in Manchester. I didn't experience any racism. So here, 3 white police officers were basically overlooked to be promoted from sergeant to detective inspector for an Asian candidate.
Yeah.
And they weren't even invited to interviews. These
weren't
guys
allowed to apply.
Weren't allowed to apply. And the superintendent from the force was told to make it happen, to promote an Asian person to be detective inspector.
Yeah.
So this isn't one where they were all interviewed and there was a process and it was like, oh, the Asian guys got through, but I'm not quite sure looking at it. It wasn't like other point systems. They weren't even allowed to apply, these guys, and they were better than the Asian guy. Now, this is happening now, isn't it? It's here. It's
been happening for a long time. We've had it with the Royal Air Force, who were found guilty of not employing white pilots. It's happened to other police forces. I think Liverpool, Merseyside was one of them, where they were found guilty of not recruiting white new police officers. This has been happening all the time, but well, for a couple of decades now. It's coming more and more into the public knowledge now, because they're becoming more and more blatant about it. Where before a lot of it would be underhand, where now they feel untouchable and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then it gets to court and they find out, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do, it's against the law.
Yeah, but everybody else is telling me it is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
The government's telling me the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the government's doing it, aren't they, with their two-tier policing? You know, Asian people aren't prosecuted for committing violent crimes. White people are. So why don't we just promote an Asian person regardless to that role?
And it started with women. It started with overlooking men to recruit more women and promote more women. That's why we have so many crap female chief constables across the country, because they only got the job because they were women, and they were fast-tracked up the promotions to become chief constables and higher police officers. We had the British Transport Police a couple of months ago saying they were getting rid of the bleep test for new recruits. The bleep test is when you run in the gym following a lie. And you,
oh, yeah.
And and they've stopped doing that because the women find it hard to pass. So they've cancelled it to get more women joining. And we keep doing this to all our institutions. We don't recruit the best anymore now. We want to recruit people in silos. We need so many blacks, so many gays, so many women, so many white men, so many Asians, so many disabled. And it's like, that's not how you recruit. You recruit on the basis of merit.
Yeah, and what it does for our country as well, it creates mediocre organisations and businesses, doesn't it? And, you know, whatever it might be.
It also creates racism, because that means when me and you go for a job at the same company, and I think I'm better than you, and then you get it, and I go, that's because you're called Khan.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my, yeah. So then I resent you.
Yeah.
And everyone treats you like that, then go, you only got the job because your name's Khan. And it might turn out you were the best person for that, but we've already sowed the seed of doubt.
Yeah.
That, you know, I've worked with many black police officers who were fantastic.
Yeah.
But I also know, I've got some stories about it. I remember one PCSO, African born, came over here, became a PCSO, and he was terrible. They found him asleep in the police station several times instead of on the beat. He got arrested for domestic violence, kept his job. He got arrested drunk driving, kept his job. And I said to his inspector, why don't you sack him? He went, Nick, I cannot sack a black PCSO because I'd need a lot more than that. And they ended up sacking him because he started fraudulently putting in overtime. And because of that, that was a clear-cut case.
Yeah, that's in
there's
nothing to do with his colour or whatever.
You did not work those dates. He also put down...
It's actually fraud, that.
Yeah, so then they sacked him on that, but didn't sack him for domestic violence, didn't sack him for drink driving, didn't sack him for falling asleep several times in the police station when he should have been working. And that's because they wanted to retain him. I've got half a dozen stories.
I won't mind
that.
applying for that job, actually, on the basis of the colour of my skin. It sounds like a good one. Drunk driving, you know, sleeping on the job. It sounds good.
Exactly.
And I think that the point I want to make here is exactly what you just made here, that you end up with mediocre people running good organisations.
And haven't we got that now?
And we are seeing exactly. So there's three examples I want to talk about. One is a personal example that I told you about, and I've got to be very careful here. But I'm not even going to talk what the profession is about. But there was a person that we had to employ, an external person. And when I walked into the room, he was a black man, and I was immediately thought, please let him be talented, not a DEI hire. Yeah. He turned out to be a DEI hire. He was dreadful. End of story. I won't give any more detail than that. The two other examples, which are very, very recent. Firstly, in the UK, I think she's called Dame Sharon Jones, I can't remember her name, a black woman who was appointed to be the chairman of John Lewis.
Oh, yes.
Now, she came from the public sector.
Yep.
She had no experience in retail.
Yep.
She had a good profile, and she's probably very good at talking bollocks in the public sector. She had a good profile in the public. She nearly destroyed John Lewis.
Yep.
In a matter of 3 or 4 years, basically. John Lewis went from being a leading business where the staff got bonuses every year.
That stopped now.
So, yes.
No money now to give people bonuses.
And then she was quite...
Yay, we've got a black boss. Yeah, got no fucking bonus though.
And she was quite... And that isn't... You know, this isn't, by the way, gentle viewers, this isn't racism. She had no experience.
In retail.
You would never employ somebody like that in such a senior position without experience. She was employed for one reason only, that she was black and she was a woman. Sorry, that's two reasons.
Yeah.
Two reasons only, she was black and she was a woman.
Very intelligent.
Yeah.
Had a great career in the public sector.
Yeah.
But their board were going, do you want to make us look even better?
Yeah.
If we had a black woman running this now.
Yeah.
So we got an opportunity, give it to a black woman.
Yeah.
She's got a great CV, but not for retail.
Yeah.
And they took her on and she almost ruined.
She nearly destroyed the business. Yeah. Yeah, it came close, I think. I don't know where it is at the moment. That's a recent example in the UK. An incredibly recent example in America.
Yeah.
The head of the Secret Service.
Yeah.
A woman who I think was on the board of Pepsi-Cola. I'm not quite sure what it was. She was from an unrelated industry. Put in charge of the American Secret Service. And Trump nearly died as a result. Yeah. There's a direct correlation there.
Absolutely.
Between her employment and a senior political figure, a former president nearly dying. I mean, it's scandalous. But how many other organisations, both in America and in the UK, are now populated with senior people who've got there as a result of their sex, colour, or religion?
Yeah. Why do you think nothing works in this country?
Yeah.
Why do you think nothing works? You know, why does the NHS not work? Why does our army not work? Why does, councils not work? It's because they're nearly all run by DEI hires. That's not to say the people at the top are stupid. They're clever, but they just weren't the best.
Yeah.
So we're missing out on the best all the time. So everything starts to crumble. And the people under them are DEI hires. So their middle managers are crap. The people they employ are crap. And the good people working in it just give up and leave because I can't work in this scenario, this environment where everything's crap.
Yeah.
And nothing works anymore.
So, I do. It's kind of, you look at that and you do start to despair really, because as you say, we've seen some very visible examples of DEI hires failing dramatically. We're now getting tangible evidence of it there. And
what's a top job in this country?
The Prime Minister.
There we go. So recently, we've had two women, May and Truss, both of them disasters.
Yeah.
We had Boris Johnson. His only saving grace was he got Brexit done, but apart from that, complete disaster. And then we had...
Yeah, but I don't think you think he's a diversity hire?
No, but I wanted to mention, because that's otherwise people think, you didn't mention Boris Johnson, but so he was crap anyway. But
Nick mentioned Boris Johnson.
And Rishi Sunak, brown man. And that's how he went up in politics, because he was brown.
Man with an ill-fitting suit.
Yeah. So we've had, out the last, before Starmer, we had 4 prime ministers. 3 of them were diversity hires to a certain extent. And Liz Truss was definitely a diversity hire if you listen to her interview on trigonometry. What's the word I'm looking for? She's autistic. Really? I didn't know how hard it was going to be being Prime Minister. I didn't... What do you mean? You didn't know these things? You've been a politician for decades. You've moved up the ranks. How did you not know these things? Well, I didn't know the Bank of England weren't going to be happy. How did you not know these things? It was... The trigonometry interview was the most annoying interview I've ever seen. I've never...
And embarrassing for her.
She was a diversity hire. She was a woman. And she got promoted up because she was a woman. And then for some reason she became Prime Minister. And it all fell apart. When these diversity hires are tested, they all fail. But if they're not tested, they can cruise along for a long time.
I want to end this session of the Mayor and I on a high, as I always do. And when Labour came to power, I remember, and I'm sure some of our viewers remember me being slightly optimistic about Labour.
You were?
I was.
And it didn't last long, did it? I put something on Twitter the other day with a picture of a honeymoon place with honeymoon on it and Keir Starmer, and then in bubbles saying, that didn't last long, did it? And then I had another thought, so I commented under it and going, after the honeymoon, comes a domestic violence.
Yeah,
Because that's what we've got now,
yeah.
domestic violence.
We have got domestic violence. So yeah, I was confident, and I think I even showed you some of their policies, including stopping the boats and all that jazz. So this is the high for the week. Last Sunday, which is the same Sunday when that racist comedian attacked the Jewish people, last Sunday more than 700 migrants arrived in the UK after crossing the Channel on Sunday in 11 boats, the highest figure since Labour came to power. They've not quite dazzled me as I expected.
There's nothing they can do about the boats that the Tories couldn't have done. Their mantra was, we're going to clamp down on the gangs. You can't clamp down. The gangs are in another country, and you can't even clamp down on drug. We've had a war on drugs for 50 years, and we can't do anything about that. That was just a mantra. The only way we stop the boats is by leaving the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, and no politician that we've ever heard of wants to do it. So
does Farage want to do it?
Yeah. Sorry, apart from reform, nobody else wants to do it. So no, the illegal boats doesn't surprise me at all. That's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Okay, well, I told you I'd end on a high.
Yeah.
So Nick Buckley, MB, thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed it, listeners, and please thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers, I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.